So I'm speaking at the national convention for Johnson & Johnson in Phoenix, and tremendous conference. And a gentleman approaches me afterwards. He says, I'm a regional vice president. I've been here 20 years with the company, and I work in the pharmaceutical division, and they rank, if you're not familiar, he said, and I wasn't, he said, they rank our pharmaceutical teams in this industry 1 to 24. And I've never been ranked. My team's never been ranked. They have 200 salespeople, and they've never been ranked, or we've never been ranked, higher than 12. And I said, well, that seems, you're kind of middle of the road. That seems pretty good. And he goes, I know I'm better than that, or at least I think I'm better than that. So we talked a little, and that was it. And I flew home. About 3 months later, I get a call from this same gentleman, and he was based in Atlanta, and I was in Palm Beach, Florida back then. And he said, Steve, I was the guy that talked to you and you remember. And I remembered him. He was kind of an outstanding figure. And I remembered him from the audience, which is difficult to do when audiences are large. But I did remember our conversation. He said, I've had your workbook from this Mental Toughness University. I've had it on my desk for 3 months, and it's driving me nuts. You're driving me nuts because I just have a feeling that maybe mental toughness training is the missing link with my team. And I've been doing this 20 plus years. And I really believe I'm better than this. I believe the team is better than this, but something is missing, and I've known it for years, and I've never broken past 12. And I said, well, where do you want to go? He goes, well, I'd like to get to the top 10 at least before I retire, in maybe, 5 or 10 years. And he said, would you come to Atlanta and talk to me? So I did. So long story short, came to Atlanta. We talked for 3 or 4 hours, and we signed a contract to start training his team. And so we did a bunch of proprietary research. And that was one of the keys of the whole thing. And this has become known as the miracle, the Mental Toughness Miracle at Johnson & Johnson because of what happened, because it was close to a miracle, what really happened. It never happened before. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but it happened because of what we did. And the leadership that this gentleman showed as well was a huge deal. Without leadership, you can't put a program, and any speaker, trainer, consultant knows that. You have to have leaders that have guts. They've got to be courageous. They have to take chances. And a lot of people just want to phone it in corporate America, frankly. I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of top executives of large companies, and a lot of them, 70% of them want to phone it in. They have good jobs. They have good benefit packages. They retire with a golden parachute, and they're fine. But there are some courageous ones that want to push the envelope because they think they're better than their results indicate. This is one of those people. So we did proprietary research. What we found out in a nutshell, without making this a big long story, because it's a longer story, just for this video, I'll make it brief. But we did all this proprietary research, and we found out that the team really believed, with their heart and soul, that they were a 12 ranked team. They were a mid-level team in this company. In terms of, compared to other, they thought they were right in the middle. They thought 12 was really good, as a matter of fact. They thought that was a good ranking. Why? Because we asked them. And then we found out what their beliefs were. And we did all our proprietary research, which has been the heart and soul of our Mental Toughness University program for 25 years. It's the secret sauce. And I've spoken about this at speakers meetings and training meetings all over the world. And people don't seem to understand that research, when you do your homework and you find out what's going on in the minds of people, that's when you can tailor a solution. If you just go up and do what most speakers and trainers do, you just go in there and put your program on them and hope it works. That's a recipe for mediocrity, if not failure. So anyway, we did all the research. Long story short, we found out what they believed, why they believed it, about the products, about themselves, about the sales training, about the company, about the culture, about the leadership. You name it, we had all this research. We did about 3 months of research, and we did it. They paid us to do it, but we lost money on the research, believe me. But we set out a goal once we did it. I told him, the gentleman, I said, I don't have his permission to use his name, so I won't, but in this video anyway. But what we did was, I said, I think we can get you into the top 5. So long story short, we're about 6-7 months in, and the rankings come out, and they're in the top 5. They're number 5. He comes to me, we talk, he says, do you think there's any possibility whatsoever, if we really push the envelope, that we could go to number 1 with the mental toughness stuff? If you took it to the point you did, like when you trained the Boston Celtics or the Florida Marlins or the Ohio State Buckeyes, or any of these large companies and organizations, the Olympic athletes you've worked with, you think there's a shot at number 1. If you think we make that kind of improvement, because the top teams in those companies are phenomenal, because I've worked with them. And they're phenomenal. And he said, but if we went from 12 to 5 that fast in 7 months, Is it a possibility? Are we just being too bold, thinking we can do this? And so, long story short, we worked it through. His end, obviously, was the technical end. My end was the mental toughness end. And we pushed it. And we hit number one by the end of the year. Just barely. We hit number one. Everyone gets bonus. It's an unbelievable thing. A guy goes after 20 years from 12 to number one. Never happened before. Okay? So, setting the goals for the next year, he said, here's something that's never happened before. It's called the President's Award at Johnson & Johnson. He said, I want to hit number one again 2 years in a row. No one's ever done it. Never done. It may be arguably the most successful company in the history of business, or certainly one of them, Johnson & Johnson. He said, I just want to go for it. I'm about to retire. I don't have too many years, but if I do, it would make my career. Do you think we could do it? And I said, we did it once. Why couldn't we do it again? We're up against some stiff competition. So we pushed it. So what did we do to make it work? Well, we had all the data. We had all the research. We knew what they believed. We knew the beliefs were limiting about a lot of things. It would take me far too long to go through it with this video, all the metrics involved. But bottom line was, we started working on their belief systems and said, you are a number one team. This was not a fluke. You are the best team in this company. And just to give you some context, when a team goes from number 12 to number one, we're talking about increases of sales roughly $200 million, okay? A lot of which is profit for this company, okay? So obviously everyone's getting bonused at a serious level here. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, for an organization, for a team to do it twice, well, obviously the bonuses are, it goes beyond belief, okay? So for an executive. And so we pushed their belief system. We pushed them. We made them think like a number one team. And I like the word miracle because if you ever seen the movie Miracle, the Miracle on Ice, the whole 1980 hockey team, if you're old enough to remember, I remember it very well, when the U.S. beat the Russians and then they went on to win the gold medal against Finland. It was a mindset shift. Herb Brooks, the coach, had to change the way they thought from being separate individual college hockey players to being one team that represented the United States. And that's it's basically the same thing we did. You change the way people believe, and when you change what they believe, you change how they perform. But you've got to do it based on the research. You can't just push. This is what personal development does, and coaches do, and speakers do, and trainers do that don't succeed at the seven-figure level. They just push their ideas and their philosophies down without doing proper research. I mean in-depth research. I mean months of research. Okay, to really dig down deep to find out where the limits are across the board. Once you do this, now you have everything exposed. Now you've got prescription because you know what the problems are. Well, we did an even deeper dive, and we started working one-on-one with people, with the district managers, and long story short, they hit number one, won the President's Award twice, millions and millions of dollars were made for the company, big money were made for the leadership. It was we made good money as well. It was a phenomenal thing. But here's my point of this whole thing. Mental toughness is the thing that can make the difference. I know sales training counts, and it does. And big companies always have the best sales training, including Johnson & Johnson. Product training is number two. You've got to know your product, especially when it's complex like pharmaceutical or financial services, our two main industries that we've worked with for 25 years. These are complex products. You have to understand the product so well that you can explain the benefits and the indications to an eighth grader. Because people don't understand those things. Even physicians don't understand the products like the sales people that sell them for large pharmaceutical companies. Those training programs typically are excellent. Here's the issue they typically don't understand in corporate America. 80% of the success of a team, once they're good salespeople, they don't have to be great, just have to be competent. 80% of their success is not going to be the sales training or the product training. It's going to be the attitude training. And you know how much attitude training they do at big companies? Goose egg. None. Why? They don't know how to do it. So what do? They bring in motivational speakers. Rah, rah, shish kumbah, go get them. You're better than you think you are. Everyone stand up and rub each other's shoulders. Isn't this wonderful? That's bullshit. That doesn't work. That feels good for 20 minutes. All this motivational mumbo jumbo makes everybody feel good. And I like motivational speeches. I've worked with every motivational speaker out there over the last 25 years. And it's all wonderful. It doesn't do anything for performance. It doesn't move the needle a single inch. Okay? But it feels good, and they don't know what else to do. It's kind of like the guy that loses the keys in his house, right? And he tells his neighbor, he says, yeah, I lost my keys. I'm looking for them in the house. He says, well, where did you last leave them? He goes, well, I know they're outside by the driveway, you know? And he says, well, why are you looking in the house? He goes, well, I got lamps in here and lights. It's dark outside. It's like, okay, it's illogical, right? You've gotta focus on the issues, and the issue is attitude. It's not just basic positive attitude. We're talking about dissecting people's belief systems about every single metric involved in the process that leads to behavior that drives results. Once you can do that, that's how you build $1 million speaking business or a consulting business or training business. That's what we've done it. Other people have done it. But the research is the linchpin, and it proved it out. We're all across the board at the miracle at Johnson & Johnson, the Mental Toughness Miracle. It was a lot of fun. Tons and tons of money was made, and they still talk about it to this day at Johnson & Johnson.